Hi everyone, this is Dr. Chhoda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I'll give you all the latest information about the $900 plus billion stimulus bill that has been proposed and some interesting indications from President-elect Biden and from the next US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who is widely expected to be confirmed in the Senate. Some incredible news that just came out that'll give you a sense of where we are heading as far as stimulus is concerned. Let's just jump right in. On your screen, you'll see a tweet from Heather Long at the Washington Post, and she quoted Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen said it's an American tragedy when she talked about all the individuals going hungry. Now, I have done another video on our channel where I've talked about the problem of hunger in our country. Just some incredible information that you can check out if you want to. Janet Yellen warned of more devastation if Congress does not pass additional stimulus. She said, and I quote, "It's essential that we move with urgency. Inaction will produce a self-reinforcing downturn, causing yet more devastation." These are the words of the next US Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, who was the chairman of the Federal Reserve from 2014 to 2018. In another tweet from Janet Yellen, Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden, joked that Janet Yellen's husband married up. Check this out. He said her husband George is pretty good too. He's won a Nobel Prize, but he married up. That's what President-elect Biden said about Janet Yellen's husband. Biden also said this about Janet Yellen. She's focused on employment and the dignity of work, knows what it means for communities when people have good, decent jobs. And this is indeed true when you take a look at the body of work, when you take a look at all the things that Janet Yellen has talked about in the past. Here's some interesting news from Kayla Tosh from CNBC. She wrote that this is what Biden said, President-elect Biden, any package passed in the lame duck is at best just a start. This is big news. What this means is we could see a smaller stimulus now, and once President-elect Biden becomes president, and presuming the Democrats regain control of the Senate, if that happens, we could be seeing an even bigger stimulus bill next year. So this is the big breaking news right now. So that's what could happen next year. What do we have going on right now? You see this tweet on your screen from Jeff Stein from the Washington Post. I did cover this in two videos earlier today on our channel, but here's a summary of the $908 billion bipartisan COVID relief framework bill that has been established. So that has been proposed, I should say. This bipartisan Senate group has unveiled a $908 billion bill, and this includes $300 per week unemployment benefits, $300 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program, $250 billion for state and local, a temporary liability shield, and $50 billion for health and vaccine distribution. But there are no stimulus checks in this $908 billion bill. So let's take a closer look at this $908 billion bill. In another tweet on your screen from Jeff Stein, here's the most recent document that has been circulating with details about this bipartisan Senate group. Now keep in mind, the reason this is important is because these are influential senators. These aren't senators who no one pays attention to. Honestly, that's what was happening with the Problem Solvers Caucus, because in Washington, D.C., it's not just about ideas, it's about influence. Let's take a closer look at the COVID emergency relief framework, this $908 billion bill, and you'll see the breakdown on your screen right now. State, local, and tribal governments, $160 billion. Additional unemployment insurance, $180 billion. Paycheck Protection Program, $288 billion. You can see that vaccine testing, tracing, development, $16 billion. So you can see the entire framework here, and you can see that the total is $908 billion. Also, there'll be short-term federal protection from COVID-related lawsuits with the purpose of giving states some time to build their own response. The idea is to prevent frivolous lawsuits. And this was reported earlier today by Jake Sherman from Politico. House Speaker Pelosi and U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin spoke today at 1 p.m. East Coast time. Now that call has already happened by the time you're watching this video, and then I'll release information about what transpired during that call. Now what makes this call particularly interesting, and you'll see this tweet also, Jake Sherman pointed it out, is that House Speaker Pelosi and U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin have not spoken since the 26th of October. So it's been almost 5 weeks since they spoke, and they spoke today. Now we are starting to get some reactions and behind the scenes news from reporters. Here's a tweet on your screen from Jeff Stein from the Washington Post. He reported the stimulus gang does not have a deal on the liability shield. Keep in mind, the liability shield is very important for Republicans. Keep in mind, this is a framework. This is a proposal. This is by no means a final bill, but it is a starting point in a series of negotiations from a group of influential senators. This isn't something that can just be set aside or or sort of blown away. Hopefully House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell start talking about this. In fact, it's official that House Speaker Pelosi did speak with the US Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin at 1 p.m. East Coast time today, so I'll report news to you about that as soon as we get news. So here's what Jeff reported. Stimulus gang does not have a deal, and when he says stimulus gang, he's referring to the bipartisan group of senators who put together the $900 billion proposal. Does not have a deal on liability shield, which is one of the main hurdles to the deal, and lawmakers are still working on the details, according to Senator Angus King. So that was news from a senator. And the group's current thinking is that, number one, let states write their own rules first, and number two, make the shield temporary. In other words, provide some sort of a shield until states can figure out how they want to deal with frivolous lawsuits. Keep in mind, this isn't designed to do away with all lawsuits, but this is designed to minimize unnecessary frivolous lawsuits that are COVID related. Also, here's a tweet on your screen from Heather Long from the Washington Post. She essentially pointed out a warning sign. Deep cuts to public transit are coming if cities and municipalities don't get funding from the federal government. DC's Metro is facing a $500 million deficit. It plans to end weekend service. In other words, DC Metro will have no service on Saturday and Sunday and cut 3,800 jobs. This will hinder the recovery. So we're starting to see what's going to happen to the economy if federal funding for states and local governments does not happen. Here's another tweet on your screen also from Jeff Stein. And Jeff reported that the head of the flight attendants union had this to say about the bipartisan effort. This is not stimulus, and more will be needed later, but immediate relief is needed now. That's what the senators are talking about. We cannot wait. So again, this was from the head of the flight attendants union. Now here's something interesting that was pointed out by Neil Irwin, who's a senior economics correspondent for the New York Times. He said that because a COVID vaccine is around the corner, because this is something that we can see, this could make it more likely that the Democrats, led by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who wanted a large $2 trillion stimulus, this could make it more likely that they say, okay, we'll do a smaller stimulus because there's a vaccine around the corner. The economy is recovering. Hopefully, will recover faster than we thought. And it also might make the Republicans who don't want to spend tons and tons of money more amenable to saying, hey, let's do that now and let's get this done. So according to Neil Irwin, his words, like this new bill from Senate centrists, meaning people who are in the center, not people who want too much spending and people who want to be too fiscally conservative. So this was a comment from Neil Irwin. And I did highlight these important comments from the senators who proposed a $908 billion bill in videos earlier today. I even included video clips of these senators. Senator Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat from West Virginia, said, our action to provide emergency relief is needed now more than ever before. The people need to know we are not going to leave until we get something accomplished. And back to Neil from the New York Times for a second. You see this tweet on your screen where Neil points out that a significant portion of the United States economy is built on a service ecosystem. Planes and hotels, restaurants and retail, commercial real estate and public service. All of these things are interconnected. One thing depends on the other. You see, if you're not going to travel, it's going to affect the guy who takes you to the airport. If you're not going to get in a car, it's going to affect, it's going to affect the price of gas. It's going to affect the livelihood of many other individuals who are dependent on simple things that essentially you create business for. So everything is interconnected. And he said, every aspect of the economy is under severe strain, which puts the chances of a recovery after COVID at risk, unless, of course, there is more stimulus. So I mentioned fiscal conservatives. Some might call them budget hawks before. One of the budget hawks that I want to talk about is Senator Mitt Romney. In fact, he called himself a budget hawk. You see this tweet on your screen from Jeff Stein. And Jeff reported that Senator Mitt Romney on the bipartisan deal today, the $908 billion deal, said, I quote, I am a deficit hawk. This is not a $1.8 trillion stimulus bill. This is a relief measure, half that amount. He also said that the $908 billion price tag includes repurposing of $560 billion from the CARES Act. This, by the way, I believe this is the money that the US Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin essentially asked the Federal Reserve to send back to the US Treasury. So it could likely be that the overall price tag of this new relief measure is simply $348 billion. In fact, Mitt Romney said the amount of new money is actually $348 billion. In fact, let's take a look at Mitt Romney right now. And he said, I'm going to quote him, "I don't like borrowing money. The only time to borrow money is when there is a crisis." And this is a crisis. Let's roll the tape so you can see Mitt Romney for yourself.
I happen to be a deficit hawk. I don't like borrowing money. I don't like spending money we don't have. But the time to borrow money, maybe the only time to borrow money is when there's a crisis. And this is a crisis. We want to help people at this particular time. And so we've come together and we've been very careful. This is not a $1.8 trillion stimulus bill. This is a relief measure, half that amount. $908 billion.
And Neil Irwin from the New York Times actually responded to this comment, if you will, from Mitt Romney that was quoted by Jeff Stein. And this is what Neil Irwin from the New York Times said. If reclaiming the CARES Act funds created a permission structure for conservatives to vote on a $900 billion bill, here's what he's talking about. The $500 billion that was essentially recovered by the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin from the Federal Reserve, if essentially reclaiming that money that was with the Federal Reserve created a permission structure, created essentially an out, if you will, for the Republicans to finally say yes, then is this it? So here's what Neil says. If reclaiming that money creates a permission structure for conservatives like Mitt Romney to vote for a $900 billion bill, that's a decent trade for the Democrats. The downside being it leaves the Biden and the Yellen team next year with less room to maneuver. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This definitely creates a window for doing a close to a $1 trillion stimulus if a lot of these senators really start to push more and more senators to do it. And I can tell you that it remains to be seen what House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says and what the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says. It's fair to say that the wheels are turning now, and 24 hours ago we had nothing. And I'll continue reporting on this, but I wanted to shift gears very slightly and report something that one of the important senators, Thune, said on President Trump's legal challenges to the election. He said the batting average isn't very good. Based on what we are seeing right now, I think the trajectory is pretty clear. That's what a prominent Senator John Thune said. Here's another tweet on your screen from Sam Mins. And Sam is a transportation reporter for Politico. And Sam reported that $45 billion for transportation in the $908 billion COVID emergency relief framework is barely half of what these industries need. Transit agencies alone say they need $32 billion. Airlines asking for $25 billion. Airports want $13 billion. Amtrak alone needs $5 billion. Buses are asking for $10 billion. So is this enough money? It doesn't look like it based on the reporting that we have. Also coming back to Senator John Thune, Jake Sherman's tweet on Politico, you'll see that on your screen. This is a stimulus relief update. John Thune said the common ground on COVID relief would be the extension of the Paycheck Protection Program, school and vaccine money, which I think is very important. But he was not interested, and he didn't see the importance of additional money for state and local governments. That's what Senator John Thune says that if this comes together, it would have to be very fast. And the two sides are still very far apart at this point, at the moment I'm recording this video, because House Speaker Nancy Pelosi wants $2.2 trillion. The Senate Majority Leader wants to do right around $500 billion. But this bipartisan group of senators, influential senators, including budget hawks like Mitt Romney, want to do $908 billion, which will repurpose $560 billion from the CARES Act, which essentially was money that U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin clawed back from the Federal Reserve. So that's where things stand. Here's a tweet from Rashida Tlaib, who's a liberal Democratic senator. She wrote the fact that, I quote, no stimulus checks is on the list shows the disconnect of the Senate with people on the ground. Keep in mind, she's talking about the Senate, which means she's taking a shot at both Democrats and Republicans because it was a bipartisan proposal, the COVID relief framework. She wrote, there may not be bipartisan support for an additional check, but there is support outside of Congress. 7 out of 10 individuals want direct payments. In other words, 7 out of 10 individuals want a second stimulus check. And so we discussed what various senators had to say, and let's now get an opinion from the White House. And while we're at it, let's get an opinion from President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris as well. Here's a tweet on your screen from Seung Min Kim, who reports for the Washington Post, and she she quoted the press secretary for the White House, and she reported that the press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, said the Trump administration has been in ongoing talks with Leader McConnell and Leader McCarthy about a targeted COVID relief plan. The $908 billion proposal has not been a topic of discussion. Now, let me be clear. The president has pushed for a large and focused stimulus. The president in the past has said he wanted to do a stimulus even larger than the $1.9 trillion. So the last time I checked, $908 billion is less than $1.9 trillion. It's actually less than half of that. So hopefully the president will support it. But it does seem like right now the response from the White House to the $908 billion plan at the moment seems at best lukewarm. Speaking of lukewarm, let's take a look at what President-elect Joe Biden had to say. Here's a tweet on your screen where President-elect Joe Biden says, "We need to deliver immediate relief for the American people and build our economy back better than ever." In fact, let's listen to some of the words from the Vice President-elect Senator Kamala Harris, and let's see what she had to say. Let's roll the tape.
In our commitment to building an economy and America where everyone has access to a higher minimum wage and affordable health care, paid family leave and paid sick leave, home ownership, and capital to start a small business. An America where opportunity is within reach for everyone, for all the people. So we've got a lot of work to do to build that America, and as Joe always says, to build back better. And President-elect Biden and I, together with this economic team, will be ready to hit the ground running on day one, because that is what this crisis demands, and that is what the American people deserve. Thank you.
That's it, everybody. Now you know what everyone is saying about the $908 billion COVID emergency relief plan. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I've tried to put together a comprehensive update so you now know all angles to this new plan. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You'll find a link to all of the tweets, all of our resources in the description section below. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, check out my video. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. That's 2 p.m. Get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000, and you'll get added to our SMS alerts list moving forward. Now, if you want, you can also get added to our email list. Simply go to ignitiontime.com/alerts. That's ignitiontime.com/alerts, and you'll get added to our email list going forward. You'll get breaking news, you'll get alerts. If I release any training programs, you'll get information about those as well. You can opt out of the SMS list or the email list at any point in time that you want. No worries about that. Now, keep in mind, sometimes YouTube does not always send out notifications on time when we release new content. All you have to do is simply bookmark youtube.com/ignition time. That's youtube.com/ignition time. And then you can visit the homepage of our channel, and then you can watch our videos at any point in time that you want. You're not dependent on notifications from YouTube. Speaking on notifications, if you want to follow us on Instagram, follow us at ignition_time. That's our handle, ignition_time on Instagram, and you'll get exclusive news and content on Instagram. Speaking of exclusive news and content, you can get breaking news alerts from us on Twitter. Simply follow us at ignition_time on Twitter as well, and you'll get breaking news and alerts from us on Twitter, so make sure you do that. As always, if you learned something new from this video, please consider clicking the like button. Please ignite that subscribe button. Please ignite that notification button, because the name of our channel is Ignition Time. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. Please share this video with friends and family if you learned something new, because our goal is to give you honest news, true news. We're not going to give you any false hope or hype on this channel. This is not a one-dimensional channel. This is a channel about the country, about the economy, and about money. This is not just a channel on stimulus news and unemployment benefits. This channel will help you get to the next level, because I have big goals, big aspirations for my viewers, for my subscribers, and for the community. You'll find a link to all of our resources in the description section below, so you can verify any of the content. You can check out the content on your own at any point in time that you want. And please comment below. Engage with our community. Our community is bipartisan, it's respectful, it's intelligent. You might make some new friends in our community. So make sure you engage in a healthy debate, a healthy, respectful debate in our community. Thank you so much for watching. One last time, please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.